Hello, welcome to the Dublin Conversations. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Andy. I'm Collen, Killingsworth, and APR, NCM, FCPRS, which is I'm accredited in public relations, Masters of Communication Management from McMaster, and a fellow of the Canadian Public Relations Society.
Welcome here today. So we're on our journey to now what we call our 5 steps to Dublin, and be great to share these with you and get your responses to each step of the journey. All right. So the context we face, Colleen, we believe is that we're facing paradoxical change and that there's greater fragmentation, yet also greater convergence. And there's a need to rethink established ideas like advertising, journalism, marketing, public relations, and more, and either improve them or replace them with better ideas. And we also have an immense opportunity with new knowledge, whether it's from anthropology, behavioral sciences, digital technology, neuroscience, sociology, and more. Can we use this new knowledge to create a new way forward? And can we co-create new ideas to do our jobs both better, but also rise to the challenge of society's many issues, including growing distrust, divisive tribalism, or not being able to come together to tackle our big challenges? And we're saying, what if we could unlearn some of our existing thinking by using the 5 steps to step outside our existing ways of thinking, to think bigger, think different, and to develop new ideas? So let's take our 5 steps through the Dublin window. And the step 1 is that recognize that many people in the world, if they're looking at the world through a public relations or advertising or communications lens, they're maybe guilty of, in the same way the early astronomers, of creating a universe with themselves at the center. And what we're suggesting is that the foundation of the Dublin window universe is the need into humans in their social interactions to create confidence in order to coexist, cooperate, or collaborate, and do this by managing the perceptions around their future behaviors. So after the human functions of breathing, eating, using your senses, the one of managing perceptions around future behaviors is absolutely critical in terms of coexistence and survival. And confidence you need to have in your consciousness of what you perceive to be reality, confidence in who you are and your purpose and purposefulness, confidence in others to help not harm you, and confidence others have in you. Even down to zeitgeist confidence, a general mood that can create business success and failure and more. And we're saying that confidence is a critical known unknown that we need to find out much more about it. However, purpose and purposefulness make it easier to create confidence by being more coherent and compelling. So in terms of step 1 of setting the context for a universe, any sort of observations you'd like to make about what we've shared there?
I really like that it's grounded in confidence, and that thinking about your purpose and your future actions, and just how you really keep that grounded to your purpose, and being more, to do that, I think you'd have to be much more thoughtful about, your plans and your actions, and making sure that they are connected back to your purpose. So you really can build that confidence, not only in yourself, but in others, that they have confidence in you, and that, the consistency and kind of behavior and approach, I think is really quite interesting.
So then our next step is to get inspired by the work of behavioral psychologists such as Professor Daniel Kahneman, is whether identifying that humans are emotionally driven animals. However, by identifying these 5 rules of thumb, or heuristics as they're known, by achieving one or more of these can help you successfully connect with others. And the 5 rules consist of being known and noticed, which aligns with traditional area of practice of creating awareness, liked, and it's not just an affective liking, but also can be respect or admired, or even liking not to like the person or thing. Trusted, front of mind. So even though you may be well known, you still need to be front of mind when people are making decisions, and being talked about, social proof, that when you're not sure about something, you listen to what other people are saying. So the Dublin Conversations believes these what he calls 5 rules frame any campaign of interaction, and provide really the framework for any brief. Any thoughts about that, Collen?
No, I really like this framing, and I think it's you see so many communication campaigns that just really stop at that no one and liked, and that's, those two are just a piece of it. So if you really purposely plan your campaigns or the scope of your communications, trying to work your way through all of the steps, I think you'd have a stronger outcome. And it'd be interesting to really take a look at, the race model and how that communications component of race could be broken down, and really making sure that each of the activities is tied to trying to achieve one of these.
And by the race model, could you just clarify for the viewers what that stands for?
Research and analysis, communication, and evaluation. It's kind of the foundational model that the Canadian Public Relations Society subscribes to.
So from what you're suggesting, I mean, the two could be quite complementary in that
They absolutely could be.
Using that as a form of interrogation from each of these 5 dimensions there.
Yes. Yeah. So, and it really could inform all of it. You could build your research plan, to really make sure you understand all of the components and what gaps there may be. So you can then really build your communications to achieve outcomes in each of these areas.
Can I suggest there might be some further connections with the further step in the process? I won't come back to that. So step 3 is about how, having decided what you need to do in terms of being known, like trusted, front of mind, being talked about, but how can you go about that? And the Dublin Conversations proposes an evolution of the PESO model of paid, earned, shared, and owned. And the profound distinction is that these are open choices, are strategic options, not media channels. So an example of own, your own reputation, your own stories, your own character, even not spending time with someone could be a way of earning trust, as well as own media channels. Paid for includes advertising and anything you need to pay money for. Earned, and that could be the traditional way of, say, media relations in public relations, but also search engine optimization and word of mouth management. And a new dimension, again, is not a channel, but a choice. It's a nudge of how you make choices easier available to people to influence their behaviors. And lastly, shared, which is both online and offline shared activity. So we believe that the 5 choices here help frame your strategic options. Any thoughts on that, Collen?
Again, I see this as a really good tool for your communication planning. And, if you're really making those purposeful choices and understanding, what each could avail to your campaign, and then how you weave it through or not. And you're strategically making that decision that, we may not want to do paid in this instance, and this is why. So you can always, back it up with data or some rationale for the choices that you make. But I think, again, this type of model really shows that communication planning done very strategically is not one size fits all. You are making choices and trade-offs. So, understanding models like this, I think, would be really beneficial.
And the next stage, and I mentioned there about maybe connected with the race model, is the about emergence, that our reality around us is created not from above by design, but from emergence from its environment. A very simple but delightful model here, the Listen, Connect, Do model, developed by Professor Gareth Loudon of Imperial College London. is a very good tool for explaining how we respond to the world by listening. So that would therefore be in, let's say, research and analysis, and then the connections and the do can be development of an idea as well as its implementation or actuality. And so by listening, connect, doing, we can interact with the world around us. And also for emergence, a label of comms has emerged, which is widely used, but there doesn't exist any formal definition of the term. And the Dublin Conversations proposes there's a need for a label to describe the bigger world of communications, or a bigger world than that. And therefore, the word comms is a potential candidate, which it proposes a definition of how you create confidence within yourself and with others to exist, coexist, cooperate, or collaborate by managing perceptions around your future behaviours, which is fundamental for being purposeful. Just any reflections on how this word comms has emerged, and if there is a need for a formal definition, and what you maybe think of the proposed one there, Collen?
I do think there is a need for a formal definition of comms. And it's, goes back to also struggling over the years with the formal definition of public relations, and now with the evolution into comms or communications, if we're all grounded in the same definition, then I think we can be more purposeful and impactful as an industry. And yeah, I do think this is an interesting definition for sure, and it does ground itself in that purposefulness.
And I think to emphasize about the Dublin Conversation, it itself is grounded in humility. So it's not proposing that here we have an answer, but rather maybe an interesting proposition that through conversations we could explore, and the resulting emergence may come up with a better, stronger, more powerful tool and for definition to give us what you say, those frameworks, those reference points. A further dimension to emergence is that sociologists are now able to carry out experiments and to establish universal sort of laws of human behavior. And they've identified one factor that 2 out of 3 people will help a stranger, which also means 1 out of 3 don't. So it's not passing judgment, but the Dublin Conversations believes that these 2 instincts emerge of a we-led approach, where your response is, when a new information or new situation, to respond on what is the collective interest, and a me-led response, which is about responding through a self-interest. How does this affect me? And there's potential, the Dublin Conversation believes, for both of these to be the foundation stones for a we-led approach being a public relations approach, a philosophy and attitude, a way of doing, and me-led being an advertising approach. Just wonder, any thoughts on that at all, Collen?
No, I would agree with we-led really being kind of grounded in that public relations approach. When I initially considered these as well, I considered it from kind of the state the world, or especially North America, finds itself in right now, where it feels like everybody is me-led and you've lost that civility. So I think the more communications and public relations can really be out there leading the we-led and really trying to ground those broader we thinking conversations, so we create that space to listen to each other and learn from each other, and bring that in, and understand what organizations need to do or adapt based on that. So I like that. I think it's interesting.
Okay. And then lastly, step 5 is that there's an idea developed from the work of Professor Jim McNamara in Australia, where he proposed the idea of a distrust-trust continuum. That one end of the spectrum you have people in disengaged. At the other end, you have people who are over trusting, which leads not only just to naivety, but also to prejudice and bias, that you only accept like a narrow definition of the world. And the space, the zone in between what the Dublin Conversations calls the purposeful trust zone, is fundamental for human society to exist. It provides a space to coexist, cooperate and collaborate with strangers and others. And therefore it enables social cohesion as well as cooperation and collaboration. And that resulted from this, that there's a need for communications practice, not just to focus solely on how do you influence others, but also a double-barreled approach of influence plus the need at the same time through any interaction to invest in social cohesion, to ensure that this purposeful trust asset is preserved, nurtured and grown for future benefit. And any thoughts about this, Collen?
I really like the concept of a purposeful trust zone. Again, that gets back to kind of understanding the middle of where we really need to be. So we're not over trusting or under trusting, but you can have that space where, you know, building on the confidence, and you can you know, bring in the data and analysis and more of that critical thinking, and try to influence and change conversations to help people kind of look at the broader, and not just end up in echo chambers and you know, repeating misinformation without stopping and thinking about, you know, critically, you know, what is it saying or not saying. And so yeah, I like the purposeful trust zone, but it will take a lot of confidence to get there.
Which one of the perhaps the dilemmas and challenge we face.
Yes.
And finally, I mean, having done these 5 steps, where it's enabled you to understand how social interactions work, stepping outside existing labels as advertising, communications and public relations, how do you feel about addressing the question of what does better look like? Do you feel more confident or less confident as a result of the conversation we're having?
Oh, I think more confident. I think it's, again, having a different perspective and different understanding, and then start to think about, you know, how you can apply that and share it with others and continue to build on it. The concepts, I think the concepts are solid. Yeah. And I think there's some key concepts in there that can be woven into communication planning very strategically. So,
and is there one or more things we should be doing different, do you think?
I think having had exposure to, you know, a lot of your work, I think it's great. There's really some fabulous canvases and work has gone in. I think the one thing is how to make it a little bit more digestible. Yeah. And, you know, break it down maybe into a little bit more consumable concepts, and then get people in to start kind of whetting their appetite, and then be able to build on that, you know, whether it's, and I know you've talked about doing some online sessions, you know, I think there's the opportunity there to do many little online tutorials, or, you know, if it's a self-guided kind of learning opportunity or exploration opportunity, I think, you know, just breaking it down into chunks and helping people work their way through.
I will say, personally, I agree with what you've said there, in that I think one of my colleagues responded, it's taken us 4 years to get it this simple, but we need to make it even simpler. And, So finally, is any further action steps you think need to be taken now?
You know, I think it would be fun and interesting to really explore how to weave some of the 5 steps into the overall kind of communication planning frameworks, and roll those out and test those. And that, I think, is also another way to kind of open up the broader conversation around Dublin, and a way to get into kind of the academic community even more, you know, as they're teaching like the race formula and communication planning, you know, have them consider these other concepts to really strengthen their communication campaigns.
Colleen, thank you so much, and thank you for being part of the Dublin conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.